It says interchange lane leads T5 and T8, so 5 and 8. I'm going to switch these two in their bundles. What is this you say is making more parts? Yes. In order to assemble this lathe, I need 4 spacers, approximately 300 thousandths tall, using my depth micrometers. Belonged to my dad. One of the few things I saved from his shop when I lost him and had to help sell off his stuff. There we go. This is number 2 of 4. I won't show you all 4 of them. But I center drilled this, drilled it with 5/16 bit. I did sharpen my bit on my new green wheel grinder, which is working better the last cut than this cut. Like I can have more problems from cutting too slow than cutting too fast. Finish edges before you cut something off. So between each one, we're going to go ahead and face them off. And we will go ahead and set the length of the next spacer. And where do these spacers go, you ask? Watch this wicked cutoff. That's rocking and rolling, baby. Woo, that baby is hot. Still smoking. Face and deburr them all. This spacer is being used on a motor mount system. Doesn't need to be super accurate, but I'm going to make sure they're all relatively the same thickness. Well, short of tidying up the wires, I've got wire nuts exposed over here. This lathe is ready to go. Switch is in the off position. No smoke, no fire. Here we go. Wait a minute. Here we go. Well, it's running backwards. Okay. Gears are running nice. Carriage speed works. My cross-side slide speed don't work because I'm waiting on a replacement for this gear. About $75. Okay, I got to figure out how to reverse the motor. Wow. Man, I got a load of time in this lathe. I mean, I've been spending every spare second of my time trying to get this baby going. And it's a great lathe. It was a good lathe when I bought it, but it's just had a lot of little things that need to be straightened out. A few parts that needed ordered. Turns out I bought a $70 gear, a $30 gear, and then prior to that I bought the tailstock hand wheel and the cone pulley pinion, and that was at like 50 bucks. So let's put this thing in back gear. There we go. You know, something I'm not sure of is I saw that this had a 1340 RPM, I'm sorry, a 34, yeah, like a 3440 RPM motor. Which I thought, oh man, it's going to be running way too fast. I thought all these had 1720 motors, and maybe I've just not been paying attention, because what I'm seeing here is speeds that are correct. I'm in middle speed here, low speed there, and when I run the lathe, I mean, set, that's the speed of the set screw coming around. I mean, this is the kind of RPM I expect to see. Maybe there's just more gear reduction here than what I'm used to, I don't know. But looks pretty good. Got to figure out the motor direction. And this baby will be ready to deliver. So check that out. Yeah, that'll run there, even though that's really not lined up. Now I can come into this next pulley and run it there. Middle speed on the flat belt, so we're getting it pretty good, but you know, it's a workable speed. Wow. I mean, I'd put some new belts on this if I were keeping it for myself. And I'd have to come up with something for this latch here. A couple little things here left for the new owner to do and figure out. But I'm here to tell you, this baby is in 3 times the condition of any lathe I've ever bought, with the exception of the old gray lady. When you buy these lathes, there's always something wrong with them. If you are looking for a perfect lathe, good luck. You better be prepared to diagnose and work on little things and track down a few parts. I haven't been bitten real bad on anything. I mean, I got a good deal on this lathe. I mean, honestly, I think I paid $3 or $3.50 for this lathe with a bunch of other stuff, which was way too cheap. But, you know, the new owner, understand, I got about, I would say 30 to 40 hours in getting it running, and $160 worth of parts. So, hey, you know, nothing good is cheap. You always have to put some effort into these things. Made a whole bunch of parts for this lathe. You know, did this this cone pulley adaptation, did a nice washer for the tailstock, did spacers here it didn't used to have. You know, it would be torquing this rod around the way it was bolted on. Those spacers go here that I just made. That was the last lathe project. So yeah, I think it's a pretty daggone nice lathe. I'd be proud to have this lathe. It's probably really a better lathe than what I'm using. Logan's are better than Atlas's, that's for sure. I would love to have had time to strip it all down and paint it because, man, this is a nice lathe. And I'm here to tell you, if I didn't already have a guy that agreed to buy it for $900, I'd probably be asking probably 11 or 12 for this. I'd say would be definitely a fair price for one that's been gone through by an expert and we know it all works. So he's getting a pretty good deal on this. I'm getting a quick customer, which is something that I want. I'm very happy with it. I gotta figure out this motor wiring. That's next. The wires coming out of the motor are numbered, and right now I'm in the configuration as you see it here. It says interchange lane leads T5 and T8, so 5 and 8. I'm going to switch these two in their bundles, and this should reverse the motor. So let me go do that, and I will save you the time of watching me turn wire nuts. We'll come back when I'm ready to flip the switch. All right, we're ready to give it to go. Put on your welding glasses. Hey, hey! Now we're turning in the right direction. Awesome. This is supposed to have an on-off switch in it, a triple throw, but because it says on-off, we've actually got 3 positions though. I don't know if it's possible. I don't think it's possible to wire this for reversing. If I could use a double throw switch, however, to switch those wires back there and give this forward and reverse, which would be a nice thing for the new owner to add to it, or buy a barrel switch. That's what's going on in a barrel switch. It's reversing that 5 and 8 wire while it's turning power on and off to the whole system. So this has been a good experience for me because I've never wired one of those barrel reversing switches, and I've got to fix that on my current lathe. Well, the last thing I got to do is put a chuck key in a chuck. This lathe. Look at that, baby. Look at that. Let's see what she looks like. Nice, nice looking chuck. This might be my best chuck. I don't know. It's a 5-inch chuck. I haven't used it before. I sure do like the chuck I have been using. And the other 2 small chucks that I have, one of them's got jaws in it I don't like. And the other one's got a wore out key driver. And you can't really tighten it. So this one works pretty good, so I don't want to sell the guy something that ain't no good. Should probably take this one apart and clean it. I think I will. Before I take it apart, I want to make sure it's marked so I can put it back together in exactly the same orientation. It says 20 or 27 or 2G, something like that right there. And there's no other marks. Oh, there's a double dot. So somebody's had this apart. Oh. Oh. I have never in my life taken a chuck apart. I need to do this to the chucks I'm using. I swear this guy's going to have a better lathe than me when he gets his tool post and all his tools for that Logan lathe. You know what? I'm going to put this on the lathe so I have something to hold on to one piece. And then I'm going to try a little bit of pressure here. There we go. See the crack open up? Might be a way to drive it apart, but I don't know what it is. For now, this is the best handhold I know of. And I don't want to stick anything in there like a screwdriver and wedge that apart. I'll end up with a humpity bump, a bruise in there that won't let me close it up properly. Before I wound my bed. I think she's about to come apart. This should allow me to, about to drop it off the end. Let me get it back on the threads. There we go. There we go. You're seeing it for the first time with me. It's had a little bit of moisture in there, maybe, or is that just the color of the grease? I don't know. Let's go clean these puppies up. Here's the scroll, and yeah, it's got some debris in it, as you can see. Here's the front of the chuck that the scroll runs in. A little bit of dirt and debris in there too. And you can see how that works. Okay, I've washed my hands since cleaning all these parts. And I'm just going to use basic good mechanic principles here to put it back together. I got it laying on a paper towel here because there is some dirt on this work surface. And these are more like ways than spindles, so I decided to use the whey oil in this. And we want a good light oil because a chuck, you want a chuck to spin freely. You might think you could put grease in here, but boy, that's a lot of surface area. A lot of surface area to have sticky grease on. I got a funny feeling it wouldn't work so hot. I'm going to be liberal with my oil. Put some oil inside the chuck. This looks like a really nice chuck. Oil the surfaces here. And we want to line up our little peck marks we saw. There's one. There's the other one. Interesting how that picked up the gear. Flip this over. Yeah, my two marks are still lined up. I'm going to put under here a metal plate. And see if I can tap this together. Let's see if I can pull it together. Actually, I think the short screws go back here. This one drive pinion is sticking out. Because probably wasn't in the hole here. This is kind of like a chuck key. It's got a little hole there that the tip rides in. There we go. Pays not to brutalize things. You catch your mistakes before you damage things. I'm just going to pull the head of the fastener down, give this very even amount of turns. Everything's pulling together nice. Let's see what we're looking like on the gap. A little wider over here, so I'm going to pull these two in. Oh, man. You know, a chuck is a vise. It's just a vise that runs around in a circle. It's mounted on a rotary spindle. Alright, since I oiled this thing, ooh, there's a bug on my neck. Since I oiled this thing thoroughly, my hands are all oily, I can't even hold on to it. I've got a 1/4-inch wrench, and I'm going to put this in my hand and tighten these screws down with it. He's got a nice deep head. We don't want to let anything slip. Wow. So there's jaw number 3, 03, 01. Notice it's this number in here. These all say 63 on them. Might be a 63 chuck. We got all the jaws back where they start. Now, I've never had a clean new chuck. Oh, it turns nice. Okay, so this jaw didn't get in over here. I'm just squeezing them all inwards. Boom. Okay, now we might be in the right place on the scroll. I can just twirl that with my finger. Look how nice that moves. I've got to do this to the chuck I'm using. See if they all come together. Look at that. Got them all timed out properly. And all in the right places. Now, I'm going to get these last screws in. And I'm going to get after it with the wrench. Now, before I mount it on the lathe, I'm going to tighten these even further, but I got to get the oil off my hands before I can do that. Wipe the top of the vise off real good. There's a reason to own hex stock, boys and girls. Look how many times I've used them. I've made parts out of hex stock several times. And it's handy when you got to do something with a chuck. Ooh. I must have had the chuck tightened up on the points. Yeah, that's what it was. I had the chuck tightened up on the points of the bar. Let's try this one more time. There we go. And I like this chuck. It's got a place for the key between every jaw. The chuck I'm using's only got one, but this is a 5 and the chuck I'm using's a 6, so I've decided to keep my 6. I may find out later that this is a really valuable chuck and I screwed up, but c'est la vie. There'll be more lathes and more chucks. There it is. That baby is together.